that doesn't solve a problem that we have.
What about ICE?
Well, I think I do not support the idea of abolishing ICE, first off. Having said that, I think there are a host of problems in our immigration system that have been created by federal overreach into state and local law enforcement. The ICE has absolutely moved too far, and when you have police forces saying, I can't do my job as a community policing if people aren't comfortable telling their neighbors that there's a problem here. But it goes beyond the sanctuary city conversation. There was this horribly depressing statistic. I want to say it was out of Houston. It was one of the big cities in Texas, where when they allowed ICE to come in, they saw an immediate collapse in reported incidents of domestic violence, and it was exclusively among the Hispanic community. And so you sit there and say, how do you look at that and not just feel pains in your heart, right? That these people are now saying, I'm afraid to go forward and go to a domestic violence center, call the police, look for the aid. And so I think we can look at and we can make sure that our borders are protected. We absolutely need an Immigration and Customs Enforcement Authority, but we need to recognize that the people on the ground who are providing local law enforcement, domestic violence protection, emergency medical protections, let them do their jobs without saying, and oh, by the way, I also have this federal mandate I have to help out on.
So should cities be allowed to say that we're not going to work with the government on immigration?
Yeah, I think they absolutely should be, and again, from a states' rights perspective, right? I mean, this is almost maybe like a historically Republican idea, right? But when in doubt, defer to the wisdom of local communities and leaders to do what's right for their local community. We just do too much overreach. I talked to a guy when I was in the Chicago Council of Global Affairs, their Emerging Leader Program. We spent 2 years looking at how comprehensive immigration reform is going to affect the city of Chicago, which we'll tell you about when I was doing this, because we thought that was something that was going to happen. And we ended up talking with a guy who was a sheriff from Sonora, Arizona. And he had these horrible stories about how he knew who the bad dudes were. He knew who the drug traffickers, the human traffickers were, and he also knew who his colleague was on the Mexican side of the border, who also knew who those people were. And he really wanted to be in a position to quickly and accurately share information with that person. But he couldn't do it because he had to go back to Washington, who then went to Mexico City, who coordinated back through. And so he's sitting there saying, if you care about cross-border controls and all the things that we should care about, trust that the people down there are doing their job for the right reason and want to get it done. And that when we impose these mandates from Washington about this is how it shall be done, and we've got all this other stuff that goes on, a lot of bad things happen.
What time is